The most confident person in the room is often the most dangerous. They have an answer for everything, a plan for every contingency, and a deep, unshakable faith in their own judgment. By the end of this, you will understand the precise psychological mechanism that builds this illusion of competence, and you'll learn how to see it in yourself. And that's crucial, because this cognitive blind spot is the quiet reason projects fail, careers stall, and preventable disasters happen every single day. In 1995, a man named MacArthur Wheeler robbed 2 Pittsburgh banks in broad daylight. He walked up to the tellers, brandished a gun, and demanded cash, his face completely uncovered. He even smiled at the security cameras on his way out. Later that night, police surrounded his house and arrested him. In custody, Wheeler was in a state of genuine disbelief. He kept muttering, "But I wore the juice." He was convinced his plan was foolproof. He had read somewhere that lemon juice could be used as invisible ink. Therefore, he reasoned, if he covered his face in lemon juice, he would be invisible to security cameras. He was so certain of his own cleverness that he tested the theory by taking a Polaroid of himself. The resulting photo was blank, which confirmed his hypothesis. He failed to consider the possibility that the film in the camera was just faulty. Wheeler's confidence was absolute. His incompetence was, too. The bizarre case caught the attention of 2 social psychologists at Cornell University, David Dunning and Dunning-Kruger. The question that fascinated them was profound. How could someone be so wrong, yet so utterly convinced they were right? This question led to a series of experiments that would uncover a fundamental flaw in how the human brain assesses its own abilities. And the answer they found is far more unsettling than one man's misguided adventure with lemon juice. Dunning and Kruger brought groups of undergraduate students into their lab. They gave them tests on topics like grammar, logical reasoning, and even humor, assessing their ability to spot a good joke. After the tests, they asked each student to do something simple: estimate how well they did. They were asked to rank their own performance relative to the other participants. The results, when plotted on a graph, revealed a brutal pattern. The students who scored in the bottom quartile, the ones who performed the worst, didn't just fail, they were also blissfully unaware of their failure. On average, these bottom performers believed they had scored well above average, around the 62nd percentile. Their actual score was closer to the 12th. This gap between perceived ability and actual ability was massive. It was a cognitive canyon. The worst performers were the most overconfident. They were inside a bubble, and they couldn't see the walls. The researchers realized they had stumbled upon a paradox. The very skills required to be good at a task are the same skills required to accurately evaluate one's performance in that task. To know you're a bad writer, you need a decent grasp of grammar and syntax. To know you're bad at logic, you must be able to recognize a logical fallacy. If you lack those foundational skills, you lack the mental toolkit to even see your own mistakes. They appear invisible. You look at your own flawed work and it seems perfectly fine. MacArthur Wheeler didn't know enough about optics or chemistry to understand why lemon juice wouldn't make him invisible. That same lack of knowledge made it impossible for him to evaluate his own terrible idea. His incompetence robbed him of the ability to recognize his own incompetence. This created a perfect feedback loop of self-deception. But here's the part that applies to all of us. The top performers in the study had the opposite problem. They knew they were good, but they consistently underestimated how well they had done relative to others. They assumed that because the test felt easy to them, it must have felt easy for everyone. Their expertise blinded them to the fact that their skills were rare. This reveals that the Dunning-Kruger effect isn't just about the ignorant being overconfident, it's a universal problem of mental calibration. Both novices and experts get it wrong, just in opposite directions. And this raises a deeply uncomfortable question. If the people who are worst at something are biologically incapable of seeing how bad they are, how can you be sure you're not one of them? This journey of learning has a predictable shape. It's often visualized as a curve with 2 peaks and a valley in between. The first peak is called Mount Stupid. When you first learn something new, a software, a language, a hobby, you make rapid initial progress. You learn the basic rules and suddenly feel a surge of confidence. You've climbed a small hill, but from your limited vantage point, it feels like you've conquered a mountain. You don't know what you don't know. The vast landscape of the subject is completely hidden from your view. This is the peak of misplaced confidence. It's the point where someone who has read 3 articles on investing, starts giving unsolicited advice at family gatherings. It's the manager who takes a weekend seminar on leadership and thinks they're ready to restructure the entire company. From the top of Mount Stupid, the world looks simple. But then something happens. You keep learning. You push past the basics and encounter the true complexity of the subject. You start to see the nuance, the exceptions to the rules, the endless sea of information you never knew existed. And with this new awareness, your confidence plummets. You fall off the peak and slide into what's known as the Valley of Despair. This is a painful, humbling place. It's the moment you realize that the more you learn, the less you feel you know. The journey to real expertise suddenly looks impossibly long. Many people give up here. The feeling of being an imposter is overwhelming. They retreat to a subject where they can feel that initial, easy confidence again. They become serial climbers of Mount Stupid, never staying in one field long enough to endure the valley. The few who push through the valley begin a slow, arduous climb up the other side. This is the slope of enlightenment. Your confidence begins to rebuild, but this time it's different. It's a quiet confidence, grounded in actual skill and a realistic understanding of the subject's depth. It's built on a foundation of mistakes made and lessons learned. Finally, you reach the plateau of sustainability. Here, your confidence is high, but it's calibrated correctly to your high level of skill. You are an expert, and a key part of that expertise is a precise awareness of the boundaries of your knowledge. You know exactly what you know, and more importantly, you know what you don't. The real trap of the Dunning-Kruger effect is that most of the world is run by people camping out permanently on Mount Stupid. And the systems we live in often reward the appearance of confidence over the reality of competence. But the discovery went even deeper than that. Dunning and Kruger found something they called a double curse. The first curse is obvious. The individual is unskilled. They make mistakes. Their logic is flawed. Their work is poor. The second curse is the one that locks the door behind them. Their lack of skill prevents them from being able to see the first curse. This metacognitive blindness is the real problem. Metacognition is thinking about thinking. It's your ability to step outside your own head and evaluate your thought processes, your knowledge, and your strategies. A person with strong metacognitive skills can sense when their understanding is fuzzy. They can feel the gaps in their knowledge. For the person trapped by the Dunning-Kruger effect, this internal alarm system is broken. They possess what some cognitive scientists call an unknown unknown. They aren't just unaware of a fact, they are unaware of their own unawareness. Imagine a tone-deaf singer performing with incredible passion. They can't hear that their notes are off-key. The physical ability to produce the right pitch and the auditory ability to recognize the right pitch are intertwined. To them, the sound they are producing sounds perfectly fine. Telling them they're a bad singer is useless. They literally lack the sensory equipment to process that feedback. The feedback sounds wrong to them, not their own voice. This is why arguing with a true believer, someone at the peak of Mount Stupid, is so often futile. You present them with evidence, with facts, with logical arguments, but their brain lacks the framework to properly evaluate that evidence. Your facts are filtered through their flawed model of the world, and they get distorted. It's like trying to explain color to a person born blind. You can use analogies about warmth and texture, but you can never truly convey the experience of red. The necessary hardware is missing. The researchers proved this with a simple follow-up experiment. They took the bottom-performing students and gave them a short training session on the very skills they were being tested on, grammar and logic. Then they showed them their original tests again. This time, for the first time, the students could see their own errors. The training hadn't just made them more competent, it had made them aware of their prior incompetence. They were suddenly able to accurately assess their own poor performance. They had been given the gift of sight, a painful gift, but a necessary one. This reveals the only real exit from the trap. The path out of the Dunning-Kruger effect isn't introspection. You can't think your way out of a thinking problem. The path is education. It is the slow, painful acquisition of the very skills you lack. And that leads to the other side of the coin, a phenomenon just as powerful and just as distorting. For the students who aced the tests, a different kind of cognitive distortion was at play. This is often called the imposter syndrome, but it's really the inverse of the Dunning-Kruger effect. These top performers, who scored in the 90th percentile or higher, consistently rated their own ability much lower than it actually was. They knew they were good, but they had no idea how good. Why? Because they fell victim to a cognitive bias called the false consensus effect. They assumed that their own abilities and knowledge were typical. The logical reasoning puzzles that they found straightforward, they assumed everyone found straightforward. The grammatical errors they spotted, instantly they assumed, were obvious to all. Their internal landscape felt normal to them, so they projected it onto everyone else. This can be just as damaging as overconfidence. The expert who underestimates their own skill may fail to speak up in a critical meeting. Assuming their insights are common knowledge, they might underprice their services, believing their work is average when it is exceptional. They may suffer from chronic self-doubt, always feeling like a fraud who is just one step away from being exposed. The world is full of brilliant people who are held back by the quiet assumption that everyone else is just like them. They don't realize their fluency in a complex subject is a superpower. To them, it just feels like thinking. This creates a strange and inefficient world. We have overconfident novices making bold, often disastrous decisions, while the true experts sit quietly in the back, assuming their crucial knowledge is already in the room. This imbalance is everywhere, from corporate boardrooms to political debates. The loudest voice often belongs to the person perched atop Mount Stupid, while the wisest voice hesitates, believing its wisdom is nothing special. The key takeaway is that almost no one is correctly calibrated. Your brain's default setting for self-assessment is wrong. It's a faulty instrument. Left to its own devices, it will either inflate your competence or deflate it. So, if you can't trust your own judgment about your own judgment, what are you supposed to do? How do you find true north in a sea of cognitive distortion? The answer lies in building external systems to check your internal compass. You cannot escape this trap by simply trying to be more humble or more self-aware. You need concrete, practical tools for calibrating yourself against reality. The first tool is to relentlessly seek out and absorb critical feedback, and this means more than just being open to it. It means actively hunting for it, especially from people who are likely to disagree with you. When a project is finished, don't ask your team, "How did it go?" That's a useless question that invites vague, polite answers. Ask pointed questions instead. What's one thing you think we should have done differently? Where was our blind spot on this project? What was the single weakest part of our strategy? These questions force specificity. They give people permission to be critical. Even more powerful, find a truth teller in your life. This is someone who has the expertise to judge your work and the integrity to tell you the unvarnished truth, even when it's uncomfortable. It might be a mentor, a demanding colleague, or a brutally honest friend. Schedule time with them specifically to have your work torn apart. Treat it like a diagnostic test. The goal is to find the bugs in your thinking. Another powerful method is to try to teach what you are learning. There is a phenomenon known as the explanation effect. The act of organizing your thoughts to explain a concept to someone else is one of the fastest ways to expose the gaps in your own understanding. You might think you understand a topic perfectly inside your own head. But when you are forced to articulate it step by step to a beginner, you suddenly discover the fuzzy areas, the logical leaps, the parts you only half understood. You are forced to confront the limits of your knowledge. For decisions of real consequence, use a technique from the intelligence community, the red team. Deliberately assign a person or a group to argue against your proposed plan. Their only job is to be the smartest, most persuasive critic they can be. They must find every weakness, every flawed assumption, every potential point of failure. This institutionalizes skepticism. It forces you to defend your ideas against a dedicated adversary, which is a far more rigorous test than simply thinking about the downsides yourself. This practice separates the idea from the ego. An attack on the plan is no longer a personal attack, it's part of the process. All of these tools serve the same purpose. They are external mechanisms for seeing what you cannot see on your own. They are the mirrors that allow you to check your own work, because the one mirror you were born with, your own self-assessment, is fundamentally warped. It's a funhouse mirror, and you need to stop trusting the reflection. Ultimately, the journey out of the Dunning-Kruger trap redefines what it means to be an expert. True expertise is a form of humility. It's a deep, earned confidence that comes paired with a precise map of one's own ignorance. A novice thinks they know everything. An intermediate learner thinks they know nothing. An expert knows exactly what they know, and more importantly, they know the shape and texture of what they don't. They can point to the edge of their knowledge on a map. They can tell you, "My expertise extends to this point here," but beyond that, you'll need to talk to someone else. This is the opposite of the bravado found on Mount Stupid. It is a quiet, powerful authority. It's the seasoned engineer who says, "I've built 100 bridges like this, and here are the 3 variables that still keep me up at night." It's the veteran doctor who tells a patient, "The tests show this, my experience suggests that, but there's a 5% chance we're dealing with something I've never seen before." That is the voice of real competence. The goal is to stop seeing "I don't know" as an admission of failure. It is the single most powerful statement a truly intelligent person can make. It's the starting pistol for all learning, for all discovery, for all progress. The man who thinks he knows everything learns nothing. The moment you can comfortably and honestly say "I don't know" about something important is the moment you've truly left Mount Stupid behind. You've traded the illusion of knowledge for the power of curiosity. And that is the only trade that leads to genuine wisdom. The world doesn't need more people who are certain. It needs more people who are skilled at doubting their own certainty. The ballot box for your own competence is always open. Every piece of feedback you seek, every book you read that challenges you, every time you say, "I might be wrong about this," that's a vote, and you are the only one who